Okay, so I'm going to do a quick video on some of the modeling techniques that you could actually use in Max if you decide to do some of your entourage in that program. And one of the common things that you may want to do is a cushion, a couch cushion or something like that. And so you can do that in Rhino for sure. There are good ways to do it in Rhino. Use control points and distort things and nudge the control points around. But one way that you can do it in Max, let's say we're modeling a typical couch cushion, the part of the couch that you actually sit on, not a throw pillow. So I'm going to do a quick box here. I'm going to go over to the Create tab, click Box, and I'm just going to click and drag out here, and then release, and then move my mouse up, and click once. And so nothing's really to scale here. This is a 6-inch wide cushion. I guess we could go, I don't know, 22 inches and then 22 inches, so you can see how this updates as you go, and then maybe 6.5 inches. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit high, 5 inches. So I'm going to zoom out. So this is our couch, and we can, or couch cushion, and we can move it around, do whatever we want. And so if I turn on, I'm in realistic right now. If I click up here on this view and turn on edged faces, I'll see how complex this object is. And you can see I actually don't see any lines going this way. And I don't see any lines going this way. It's literally a face, a face, a face, you know, so it's pretty basic. So if I select it and I go to the Modify tab, the Modify tab lets me modify anything that is selected. It's sort of the, it's like in Revit, if you've used that, it's like the instance properties. So or it's like the properties in Rhino, although we didn't really talk about that much. But if I click on Modify, then it says Box 1, and we could rename it Cushion 01. And here's our 22 inches, and 5 inches. And what we actually want to do is give it more polygons so it can be deformed and look smooth. So let's say, I'd say 50 by 50. And then we can kind of look around, and then we probably want 50 and maybe we want 25 in the height, because that's going to be these guys, and 50 for the shorter distance. In fact, 25 is probably too many, but we'll call it good. So you can kind of see what I did there is I added length, width, and height polygons so that as we work with this thing, we can start to deform it. But we can't really deform it that easily now because it's a box, and it's kind of a unique object in Max. It's sort of seen as a box, and you know, there's not a lot we can do with it. But if you convert it to an editable polygon, then it loses its label as a box, and it will become just a primitive shape, just purely a shape. But the reason we want to add length, width, and height segments before is because this is really easy while it's still a box. So now all we do is we make sure it's selected, we right-click, and we say Convert to Editable Poly. And so avoid Mesh and the others, but you'll notice it has a NURBS option. Don't choose that, but just so you know, Max does NURBS curves just like Rhino does. In fact, there's a lot of advantages to using Max for NURBS. But Convert to Editable Poly is the one we want. And now we notice over here it's still called Cushion 1, but it's now an editable poly. And we can select by polygon. If we click over here, we can select edges. It's not really what we want to do, though. So what we actually want to do is make sure nothing special is selected. And then find the modifier down here, and I'm just scrubbing my way up and down. You can use the scroll bar over here too. And keep in mind, I'm in 3ds Max Design, which I'd recommend you use. It's on a few of the Computer Lab computers, the ones with the architecture suite. And it's just preferable in a lot of ways for architects and interior designers. But I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to find the, first of all, we won't use it quite yet, but we will be using paint deformation. This is a great little tool where we can push and pull and create folds. But we can also do, let's see, relax. That's the one I wanted. So if we click relax, we get the basic settings, but if we click the box beside relax, we get tweakable settings that pop up real time. So if I click this options, then we can actually see this relaxing. And it looks like it's not going to respond to me yet because I don't have the right thing selected. So let's go back up here and select the element. There we go. See, I was selecting by face or by edge, and so I have to actually have the element, which is the whole enchilada, so to speak. So otherwise, it'll say, okay, well, just relax that one polygon. So I'm going to select this whole thing and say element, and I'm going to go down here to relax again. Where'd it go? I scrolled right past it. There it is. Options. There we go. So you can see even the default settings give us a nice smooth filleted edge, and we can tweak this. Gives us a radical shape that way. And we can tweak the smoothness, so you can kind of go for the look you want. Whoa. And you can, of course, click, but I like to click and drag because it gives me kind of a smooth. There we go. So I'm happy with that, and I'll say OK to accept. And so now we've got a nice smooth, we can turn off edged faces here. We've got a nice smooth cushion there. So now what let's do, and we can do this with edged faces off so that we can kind of get a better feel for it, is actually go down to paint deformation, push-pull. And so we can click on that, and that's actually going to give us a little brush that we can paint on deformations with, like that, which would make a very uncomfortable cushion. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. And we can back off our brush strength. So this is all sort of the parameters for painting deformation. So let's say 0.05. There we go. We're going to get some subtle lumpiness. And if you hold down Alt while you paint, it actually paints it down. And we can turn on edged faces because it might be easier to see. So you can kind of see that we're getting some subtle variations that are going to give us just that bit of realism that's going to show up in a scene with shadows and lighting, and there we go. And if you want to play with it, there is also a cloth modifier right here, but that can be a bit of a trick to use, and it's just I mean, I use it. That's how I did the curtain in that initial rendering, but I would recommend staying away from it. I'm going to right click on that and delete it. This is the modifier stack, by the way. We can add, for example, a UVW modifier like we've had go on in the past when we're remapping textures, and they start to stack, and you can go back in the stack, change something, then go up in the stack, and everything kind of updates. So it's basically a parametric modeler. It's actually kind of like 3D modeling with some of the benefits of a program like Revit, where you have parameters that define things. So that's and then of course you'd find a material that worked. Materials, Mental Ray, Arc and Design might give you something that works. So let's go over here. Let's see if there's anything that might work for you. I mean, you could build up from a matte finish. Oh, I'm not seeing anything necessarily. And so you could go with right-click Materials, or sorry, not Materials. Go to Autodesk Material Library and Fabric, and then Bandage, and then find Lace. Well, Lace wouldn't work. Plaid would be an eyesore. I'll lose points if you use Plaid. Let's go with Beige. Be boring. So drag this over and right click on the name and say show realistic, and I'm right clicking up here, show realistic in viewport. So there's not really a lot going on with this texture, but it also might be mapped wrong. Let's turn off edged faces and see. Yeah, I think it's actually like tiny, and so you might want to remap this. I don't know, you might even have to do a quick render to see how this is really going to look. There, I'm starting to see some pattern in there. I think it's in there. Yeah, and in fact, maybe I'm a bit big with my texture. Maybe I could actually back it off to 0.5. No, I think 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. That probably works fine. I didn't know what my renderer is set up as. Let's see if we can get a render out of this. Okay, that's looking pretty ugly. So, you may want to avoid beige. I think the bump map is incredibly high on that. Or the mapping might be off. Let's see. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take that bump map off. The bump is what makes it look all bumpy, obviously. So you can disconnect these little nodes by just clicking on it and pulling it away. So I just pulled the thing that goes to the bump map. I pulled that off. And again, this is kind of a quick video. I'm not expecting you to necessarily... There we go. That's looking a bit better. So my bump map was just giving us this insane looking spiky couch. And you can also back off the bump map. But I don't think you necessarily need that for a decent cushion. But you can see that this is starting to get that sort of fabric-y look that you see with cushions. So anyway, I hope that helps, and good luck on your final.